Hi there. I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, I have Reece Campbell. Welcome to the show, Reece.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great pleasure to have you on. We've hung out socially before, not professionally, but you are an attendee at the Bespoke Badger, as am I, and everybody loves the backgrounds you put up there.
Yeah, it's good fun. I like to change things up a bit. In person, I change my t-shirts quite often, so it's basically the virtual version of that.
Ah, that's good to know. I collect t-shirts, but I go to exhibitions. None have been on, obviously, mostly this year, but I get t-shirts from exhibitions and stationery and other stuff. So it's good. And if I'm talking about background, so the reason I have this background on is I believe a hobby of yours is ethical hacking. Can you tell me how you got into it and about a bit about what you do?
So it's a very recent thing. I've only just kind of started to get back into it. I say back into it. When I was younger, I used to play around with a lot of things. We can get into
Didn't we
computers.
all?
Yeah, so yeah, between sort of 13, 15, you see the Matrix, and suddenly you think, oh, I could do all sorts of things.
I
At one
know,
point,
it's good.
Well, at one point, I was technically kicked out of school. But then my parents argued and I got back in. Essentially, I just had the wrong program on my network storage, and they
Ah,
did some sort of sweep and found a bunch of these tools, and they got a bit upset. It was quite
I
funny
can't
because the
imagine why.
it was oh, I mean this was what was it? It was not Donald Duck. It was that sort of game that it was a Trojan thing that you had.
Yeah.
You got them to run it, and it would allow you to open CD drawers and things like that. It was a
Ah,
stupid little thing. It was a bit of fun, and I had it, but I never used it. I'd never intended to use it. But there were a few other guys in school that had it and used it, and some teacher saw this happening in a classroom, and that's why they did the security sweep. So there were
I,
four of us that got caught with these tools, and I was the one that was on the verge of getting expelled. Um, head Vice headmaster, I don't think very much liked me. So,
can't imagine
but
why.
yeah, troublemaker. What can I say? Um, but yeah, so that was the sort of stuff in the back. I had a lot of fun with that. The first time I got access to the internet, we had AOL in the house. I actually built a VB login using Visual Basic 6, I think it was, that
Okay.
replicated the login screen. And I got my dad to run that instead of the actual one to get the password. So
Well done, you.
that was my first social engineering, I would say. But I mean, that was a bit of fun back then, and more recently, it's just been just to see what I can do. I've got a whole bunch of old hardware around, so I just set it all up, set up a network, and just started playing around with the tools that exist. Got
Got
myself
it.
a couple of videos, a couple of video courses from Udemy. There's a
I know Udemy. Yeah.
couple of courses I've been following that just it's basic stuff at this point, just to kind of play around with it. So Wi-Fi, get access to a network. I found that actually some of the older hardware is stupidly easy to get into.
I
It's
know.
not it's actually quite scary. Some of the newer stuff's harder, definitely. Like I tried to hack my own network, can't get into my own network. I
You
don't
should
have
get
those skills.
somebody else to try and hack your network.
Yeah, I should, but then I don't want them to hack my networks. But
Just call
it's
it a
it's
pen
just
test.
yes. I'll find someone. But yeah, just a bit of fun, really. Just something to play with. Kali Linux on a pen drive and see what you can do.
There's some really amazing tools out there. I was actually involved in a project around community safety some years back, and we had an international thing, and somebody who was a consultant to the FBI came over with some of their tools,
Ah,
and
nice.
those are really cool to see.
I mean, it's amazing how many tools are out there and what people build and release. But then I suppose half the battle is knowing what it is you're actually running,
Yes,
understanding what that's doing. But then on top of that, because it's community and it's these things that people are putting together and throwing out there, it's not that easy to work through because it's not like it's documented. It's not like Microsoft. You don't go to docs.microsoft.com and suddenly understand everything about the
well,
tools that you
well,
find.
well, 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 well. Much as we all love Microsoft, I wouldn't quite say the docs at Microsoft.com is always the most up to date and accurate information.
This is fair to say. It's a heck of a lot better than it was. I mean, it's getting much better and being open source. It's quite
Yes.
there's a lot more going on there than there was in the past, certainly. And I like the fact it's a central point. But again, you don't get that with those sort of tools that you find in the community. I think the closest thing I found to that is the Kali website itself. If you go there and go to the forums, you can find a lot of information.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not like you just go to Microsoft.com and understand everything about whatever the technology is you're playing with.
that is very true. So, from ethical hacking to what do you have to share with us? What's your oops?
My oops was actually one of the main things that got me into talking at the in community events and in
Okay.
speaking in public. I mean, it's essentially a couple of years ago, a little over a couple of years ago now. So the first Scottish Summit was when I did my first
Ah,
presentation, and my talk was on my year of learning with Dynamics portals. So I literally where I was at the time, we got a new customer and they wanted to have a portal set up, and we
okay.
actually sold custom portals. We sold custom software that was all about interfacing to Dynamics and built a whole website on top of that. It was aging technology, and they were looking to see if they could maybe use Dynamics portals to replace that or maybe add to it. And so
Okay.
I was tasked with learning Dynamics portals. This Bear in mind, this was when it first was bought from ADX. So when Microsoft bought
Yes.
ADX Studio and made the product, so Dynamics portals had just come out. So I was on the bleeding edge, so to speak, of that particular technology to then actually implement it as a customer website and portal. So it was their
Right.
full-facing public website. I learned a
Okay.
lot through doing that it was a
Ouch.
bad idea. Yeah, it was, I mean, fantastic technology. You could do a lot with it, but public facing, it wasn't ready for that. I don't think it's ready for it now in terms of it being your main homepage. If you want a homepage, CMS,
Yeah,
nice editable front page, you don't want the
it's
portal.
it's not there. It's not
No.
there. That we're going to be brutally honest because I think there's great potential for it, but they're still stripping out the old ADX code, rewriting it properly to come in. We're not even going to go into the licensing.
Yes.
It's an absolute nightmare, and anybody listening to this episode who has touched portals and thought about the scenarios and then gone away and look at licensing will be shaking their head at the thought of licensing around it. But yes, so really, so what happened with that project then?
So uh, it went on for a while. Got a fully featured website. The whole thing. I mean, it had a full public facing website. It had blogs. It had news articles. It had a members directory. It had an event booking system. It had shopping.
Wow.
All of that was done using portals. So the functionality was brilliant. It did everything that was needed. The problem was it was too slow in everything it did. Everything. I mean, the load page on the homepage, I can't even remember the numbers, but sometimes it could hit up to 60 seconds. If it,
What?
if if it hadn't been if it hadn't been used for a while, like first thing in the morning, it would take a very long time to load up.
And was that
And I
because
mean,
of server-side caching or client-side caching or?
we that was the other thing we could never find out because it's a closed box, it's a black box. You can't.
Yeah.
It's not like you can crack it open and just be like, right, well, we'll tweak this service, add a few more add a bit more compute there, or do this. You couldn't do any of that. You couldn't change the bootstrap version. You couldn't change any of the included frameworks. You couldn't easily add anything else. We actually put a CDN service in front of it. So we used Azure, I forget the name of it, but the CDN services from Azure, we used one of
Yeah.
those, and we actually sort of stuck that in between, and it worked. I mean, it was a crazy thing, but it worked, uh, and
I'm
it
glad to
did.
see you stayed with the Microsoft stack for it.
I mean, that's what we had. That's what we had access to, and that's what we knew. And again, I'm no expert in web development, so this was very much sort of learning on the go.
Got it.
But I mean, I was very pleased with what we built. I thought that what we built was actually a very good thing. It was just a shame that we were so uh, handicapped by the fact that
Yeah.
we didn't have the access to it. And that's the oopsie. That's the part that, I mean, that's the thing that I've taken from that really is, yes, it's great to have the technology. Yes, you could probably do it. On paper, it looks fantastic, but you cannot put this in production until you've tested it in some other way, until you understand it fully enough. Not for that kind of thing. Not for
Right.
a public facing website that was supposed to be their main source of getting, essentially it was their main source of business. So it was,
Like
I would
most
say,
companies, their website is their main sort of business, especially in current circumstances, online
well,
shopping, things like
especially
that.
now,
So
yeah, yeah, especially now.
somebody
But
something into a website, they want it like loading in half a second, no more than 3 seconds. You've already lost like 40% of people because of load time. So yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they actually, so the customer brought in an agency to help with SEO and tracking websites and things like that. And they came to us with a report, and they were like, "This is terrible." It's like, we know it's terrible. I mean, we've tried as much as we possibly can to make it better, but essentially you're running your website on a free service, because back then it was still free. So it
yes,
was a fully free service for them. Um, I understand since then they've dropped it and moved back to custom CMS, which was the only other option. I don't know if maybe they're doing hybrid, but yeah, that was a little while ago now. But um, that was definitely, I learned from that. It's all well and good being able to implement something, and technically absolutely possible, but that
yeah.
user experience is incredibly important. And
UX,
it's
UI, both in terms of usability and the visuals. It's really important. I've been on a couple of projects recently in which we deliver the tech, so we get everything working underneath and everything joined up, and then we get a UI UX person in to overhaul the visuals, the graphics, the experience of it, just because it gives a massive amount extra to the client, for doing it, and it will retain the client for longer, the customers of the clients and stuff like that. So definitely, if you're putting something public, throw everything
mhm.
you've got at it in terms of the testing, in terms of the interface. Yeah,
Yeah, that definitely, off the back of that, that's one of the things I think anything like that comes along, I'm going to have alarm bells ringing straight away, and just I know a few more questions to ask. But that's the way I kind of, I've learned a lot of what I do is I've done something in the past, and now
yeah,
through those mistakes or through what I've learned from there, I can ask the right questions the next time.
indeed.
It's like, I mean, something that came up recently was document templates in CRM or in Dynamics. I still call it CRM.
It's fine.
And
It's fine. I
yeah,
forgive you. We all do
thank
it.
you. Um, yeah, so document templates. There's someone came to us and they were like, we need an invoice to be generated, and a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, great, we can do that out of the box, no problem. It's like, wait. Right, invoice. So you want to have a list of products? Okay, how do you want that sorted? Oh yeah, we definitely want it sorted by price. Yep, can't do it. And it's just it's knowing the
Yeah,
limitations is very important for that kind of thing, and you only get a lot of that through experience.
definitely.
Uh,
But look, this is what we'll do through, and this really is the whole purpose of this show. People can share the stuff they've gone through, and we can all listen, watch, learn from it, and apply it to our own projects. So, really, thank you. That's great. I've never heard of such a project. It's the first for me. So, really great. So, thank you for sharing it.
it's all right, you'll never hear of another one again.
Well, hopefully the product won't make it necessary, because it will get that much better.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Microsoft takes it that way. But yeah, definitely.
We will see. Who knows? So now here's the point where I ask who you'd like to nominate to come on the show to hear their Roots Factor story.
Yeah, so there's a guy that I actually met. I think it was last year in Dublin when we were there for the
Okay.
event, and co-hosted a presentation with him on DevOps. So it's something I've done a few talks on now, and I quite enjoy working on it. And we kind of last minute got pulled together to do a talk in Dublin, and it was
Okay.
actually brilliant. It was a very full room. We were like, I think we were the last one of the day, 4 o'clock or something, and we managed to pack out the room.
That
Jonas
is
was there.
impressive.
When Jonas Rapp was
Oh.
there, which was fantastic because as we were going through it, there were a few questions that people were asking us, and we're like, and Jonas chimed in, it's like, oh yeah, you could do this, this, and this. It's like, oh, fantastic. But yeah, it's Shidin Haridas. I don't actually know how to say his second name, so
Okay.
I'm absolutely butchering that. But he's based over in Dublin. He's very involved over there in the user group on that side as well. But
Okay.
he's a good guy. You should definitely bring him along.
I will reach out. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Shilin,
Pleasure.
coming for you. It's okay. We'll give you a heads up. I'm not just going to get you on the show without any indication. Well, Reece, once again, thank you so much for your time in coming on. Viewers, we hope that you have enjoyed the episode and enjoyed the story about Power App Portal, as they're now called, as much as I have. Feel free to take a look at the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, and take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come on the show, take a look at the description. There's a link in there. Hit the link, fill in your details, and I'd love to have you on. Have a great day.